And now that we are done with the UFC 300 title fights, we're going to jump in to the main card, two more fights, and the entire prelims. Let's hit it all. Not necessarily fast, but let's just run through this, talk about what we saw and what is next. We start in the lightweight division. Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan. Dana White said when the fight was announced that it was a number one contender fight, and it turns out it wasn't. Dustin Poirier's next, June 1st for the title. But Arman Tsarukyan extends his win streak, gets the biggest win of his career, and surely does cement himself to maybe not have to fight again and get the winner of Makhachev versus Poirier. Let's get into it. Charlie Oliveira, Charles Oliveira was coming for blood. He almost put out Arman Tsarukyan within minutes of the very first round, had him in one of the tightest guillotine chokes I've ever seen, and then ends the fight in a Darce choke, but sandwiched in between was the high-level skill set that Arman Tsarukyan has. He put it on display once again with dominant grappling, nasty ground and pound. He is so high level. He's 22-3. He's won 4 fights in a row, 2 of them by vicious knockout and 2 by decision over Ismagulov and Charles Oliveira. Back-to-back biggest wins of his career by knocking out Dariush and defeating Charles here at UFC 300. He didn't get the title shot. It was clear that the UFC was ready to go with Islam versus Dustin. They just wanted to wait and see. Maybe Justin Gaethje will get a big win. Maybe the winner of Oliveira Arman will be a convincing big finish. Neither of those happened. Therefore, boom, at the press conference, they announce Islam versus Dustin Poirier, June 1st, UFC 302 in New Jersey. I would like to think that Arman can wait in the wings, maybe even be a backup fighter, weigh in if need be. It won't be that drastic of a calendar difference, a schedule difference. We see him have a training camp and fight April 13th. Dustin and Islam are going to fight in a month and a half, seemingly. So that's not terribly crazy for Arman to maybe fight the winner of that in October, November, December. I think that is very doable. So my hat is off to Arman for surviving these submissions and having big moments of his own. And Charles Oliveira, man, I know I don't get as in-depth on the losers for the most part, week to week, but he's never in a boring fight. There's no way that you can't love every single time Charles Oliveira has a fight, gets into that octagon, faces his opponents on stage for a face-off and removes the sunglasses, shows up in the suits and the swagger, the confidence, the blonde hair with his team. There's only one Charles Oliveira, but UFC 300 belonged to Arman Tsarukyan. Bo Nickal got another stoppage victory, this time not in the first round. He actually did go to the second round for the very first time in his 6-0 professional career. He is 3-0 in the UFC. He went 2-0, of course, on Dana White's Contender Series. This victory came via submission against Cody Brundage, so a gradual step up here in competition. And it showed. Bo did not look like a dominant force as he has in all of these other fights. He took a couple shots. The takedowns didn't come as easy. The submissions didn't come as quickly. So kudos to Cody Brundage for surviving, 8 minutes and 38 seconds. That's longer than anyone has done before by quite a lot of time, as a matter of fact, as crazy as that sounds. But Bo Nickal remains perfect. And, a lot of people are hating on him. This is what the UFC is pushing him. And boy, what's Bo going to say no to getting a high-profile fight on pay-per-view cards back to back to back? Of course he's not going to do that. Opening the pay-per-view card of UFC 300, the biggest card ever, of course he's not going to say no to that. So I don't think there's necessarily a reason to hate on him as much as people probably do. Yes, he's a little bit cocky, but most of that seems to just be confidence, and I can respect abode of confidence in this sport, because after all, you need it. If you go into these fights not being confident, it's over before the fight even starts. And that's what I think separates Bo Nickal from the opponents he's faced thus far. But middleweight is not that deep of a division. It is not the most stacked division in the UFC by any means. Therefore, it does not take that many fights before Bo, if he continues to win, becomes a part of the top 15. He mentioned Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He mentioned Roman Kopylov. Kudos to him. That is a great step up. That is actually a very big step up, either guy, from Cody Brundage, Jamie Pickett, Val Woodburn, etc. And so kudos to him for having those call outs. And I am excited to see what will the UFC do here after they got to watch this round and a half of action from Bo. Will they take a leap as big as Anthony Hernandez or Roman Kopylov, or they maybe do one or two more outside looking in, 20 to 30 range ranked middleweights before they really take the next steps with Bo Nickal? Time will tell, but we'll probably get to see Bo in the octagon at least one more time in 2024, which could set up potentially a big 2025. And we now go to the prelim headliner. Holy moly. I didn't think this fight was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be this damn good. Jiri Prochazka finishes Aleksandar Rakic 3 minutes and 17 seconds into the second round. These guys were going toe-to-toe for 15 minutes. For 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Rakic is still, to me, one of the most underrated fighters, for sure, on the light heavyweight division, and probably in the entire UFC. Everybody knows what Jiri Prochazka brings to the table. Samurai warrior. That is his skill set. And what does he do? He fights on no legs, essentially. Rakic tore down both of his legs with the calf kick. Rakic landed big shots, but Jiri just fought through it all like it was nothing and inevitably knocks out Rakic in round number 2. This was number 2 versus number 5. Seemed like a pretty clear-cut number 1 contender fight to me. If we're going to get Alex Pereira moving to heavyweight next month, then Jiri has time to recover. And then we can run that rematch back maybe at the end of the year, Prochazka versus Pereira 2. I know Magomed Ankalaev is out there as well as a guy that probably should get the next title fight. He beat Johnny Walker in the very first event of the year. So in the meantime, if Pereira does this business at heavyweight, maybe they run Jiri versus Ankalaev. That's a fight that hasn't happened. Please don't do it for an interim belt. We don't need to do that. But Magomed should probably get the next title fight. He doesn't have the best relationship with the UFC and with the fans. Everybody seems to love Jiri. Interesting circumstance. Maybe they just run Jiri versus Ankalaev in a true, guaranteed number 1 contender fight, huh? Aljamain Sterling, unfortunately, in his featherweight debut, had the worst fight of the entire UFC 300 card. Very dull. Not a lot to take away from it. He just grappled Calvin Kattar, held him up against the fence. Really never did much. He didn't land a lot of ground and pound. He didn't have a lot of submission threats. He did tombstone pile drive Calvin Kattar at the end of the fight, which was pretty damn cool. I'm not hating on Aljo. I was a guy that was, along with Noah, when he was on the show, we were saying for people to give Sterling his flowers. That bantamweight championship run that he had, fight by fight, got progressively more impressive, and I think he started to grow a little bit more of a fandom. But he got beat by Sean O'Malley, which then in return just leads to a lot of haters. And then I don't know, it's always just been weird for Aljo. He is an elite talent, and you can't take that away from him. I gotta say, yeah, the fight was lackluster, but he dominated, and he looks great at 145 pounds. His physique is fantastic. And so for that reason alone, I am excited to at least see what could be next, who could be next. Calvin Kattar was number 8 in the division. I got a match, and I'm going to say it right here, right now. Because I don't view the UFC as, launching Aljo very far, unfortunately, up the rankings after this fight. Diego Lopes, I'm going to skip the Kayla Harrison Holly fight and come back to that because I'm going to pair these 2 featherweight fights together. Diego Lopes has won 3 straight fights, 3 straight first-round finishes after nearly beating Movsar Evloev in his UFC debut on short notice. He's looked amazing and flawless ever since, and he steamrolled Sodiq Yusuff, the number 13 ranked featherweight in the world, like quite literally no one has ever done before. Diego Lopes is going to enter the top 15, at least be number 13, but I think after that performance gets a little bit higher. Give me Diego Lopes versus Aljamain Sterling in a 5-round featherweight main event right now. So with the featherweights out of the way, let's jump back to the women's bantamweight division. Kayla Harrison, Ohio's very own, stand up. Welcome to the UFC. As someone from Ohio that's followed Kayla for years and knows very well of her upbringing, this was amazing to see a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, a 2-time PFL champion, now transition into the UFC, come down to a weight class she's never competed at before, and only one time competed close to it at featherweight in Invicta in 2020, makes the weight, proves the haters wrong, beats Holly Holm, a former champion, finishes Holly Holm, made it look easy from start to finish until the 1 minute and 47-second mark of the second round. Kayla Harrison is here. She's here for a very fun ride. Her next fight's for the bantamweight title of the world. Juliana, I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. The UFC is giving Kayla Harrison the fight with Raquel Pennington, and if Kayla wins that fight, Amanda Nunes is coming out of retirement. The former training partners and friends will clash in one of the biggest fights at bantamweight in a long time. Amanda Nunes was on Twitter sharing videos of herself waiting for Kayla to call her out, showing her resume. It was kind of weird. She was really trashing Kayla, not trashing because she didn't directly insult her or anything, but it was a really weird dynamic. I've never heard of anything negative between their relationship. They were training partners, they were friends, they never had to worry about fighting each other, so they would help each other out in their training camps. PFL for Kayla, UFC for Amanda. I've listened to a lot of Kayla interviews, and I've never heard her necessarily talk trash or do anything like what Amanda was doing. And let us not forget, Amanda Nunes is retired, so it was a little weird, but maybe she just sees how much help that women's bantamweight needs right now. The GOAT, right, wants to come back home. There's no better way to do it. If Kayla beats Pennington, that is the way. And now we go to the early prelims to cap off the discussion. Jalin Turner almost finished Moicano early, but Renato came back strong and knocks out Jalin Turner late into the second round with ground and pound strikes. Moicano was number 13. He just beat number 10, Jalin Turner, the first underdog of the card that won throughout the night, and one of only 3 total that won on the night. And he did it in very convincing fashion. He will move into the top 10. Money Moicano, man, he gets the job done, and when he gets the microphone, he's going to let people know how he's feeling. He's trying to build his podcast, build his YouTube, and build his bank account, man. So you got to respect it. He's just now getting the biggest moments and fights, and maybe not biggest fights, but the most amount of eyeballs on him that he's had. But he's been in the UFC for what will be 10 years come later on in December. He dates back to 2014. So it's unbelievable. 2 different weight classes that he's competed in. 3 straight wins. None bigger than this one over Jalin Turner. Money Moicano, top 10 opponent next. Women's strawweight, I mentioned this in the title fight discussion. Jessica Andrade, Marina Rodriguez, great fight. I told people in the breakdown leading into this fight that it was going to be very good, a low-key sleeper on this UFC 300 card. They went back and forth on the feet for 15 straight minutes. Big moments for both, but Andrade squeezes out the split decision victory after a 2-3 5-fight year in 2023. She's won 2 in a row. She finished Mackenzie Dern. She beat Marina Rodriguez. She's number 4 in the strawweight division right now. Again, maybe she gets a rematch with Zhang Weili for the next title fight. I hope it's Tatiana Suarez getting the next title fight. Therefore, let's take a little look here, because I feel like Jessica Andrade has literally fought everyone there is to fight. She's already fought Lemos not that long ago. Maybe she fights Virna Jandiroba. That's a fight that's fresh, that hasn't happened before. That seems to make sense. I am okay with that fight. Virna beat Mackenzie Dern, if I'm not mistaken, in her last fight. Let me confirm that really quick. Sorry, I was way off. I literally was 5 fights off. I don't know why I thought Mackenzie Dern was Virna's last fight. She lost to Mackenzie Dern, but since then has won 4 out of 5, with the only loss coming to Amanda Hebas. But Virna's won 3 fights in a row. Angela Hill, Marina Rodriguez, who Jessica Andrade just beat, and she beat Lupi Godinez just a couple weeks ago in Atlantic City. So yes, I think that's what you should do. That's the picture right now at strawweight. Tatiana Suarez, Zhang Weili for the title, Virna Jandiroba versus Jessica Andrade, number 4 versus number 5. Winner of that gets the next title shot. Boom, easy peasy. UFC matchmaking. Call your boy. We go to the OG fight of the night. Bobby King Green beats Jim Miller. It was a bloody mess. And I had this fight to not go the distance, and boy did it, and it was hard to watch. It sucks that Jim Miller didn't get the victories on 100, 200, and 300, but he still fought on all 3 of the Centennial cards for the UFC. It's a feat that no one has ever accomplished and can never accomplish ever again. And for that reason, Jim Miller's a one of one, man, a Hall of Famer when he decides to hang up the gloves. But Bobby Green, what a great bounce back. He just got brutally knocked out in December by Jalin Turner, but comes back here and just for the most part has one-way traffic with Jim Miller, put on a striking clinic. Jim landed a couple big shots that had Bobby a little wobbled, but other than those, Bobby looked fantastic. And last but not least, the curtain jerker, the greatest opening fight of all time in UFC history. Number 8 bantamweight Deivson Figueiredo is now 2-0 at 135 pounds as he submitted Cody No Love Garbrandt in the second round, 4 minutes and 2 seconds in. Very close first round. Cody, I felt, won the first round, did a little bit more damage. It wasn't a very action-packed round, but Cody looked good. He looked cool, calm, and composed. Figueiredo didn't look like he was able to pull the trigger or get anything going. But in round 2, he took down Cody early. He had him in an arm triangle choke for a very long time. Cody fought out of it, almost got back to his feet, but Figgy decided to use his jiu-jitsu and grappling skills, keep Cody down, and lock in the rear naked choke that forced Cody Garbrandt to tap. That's 2 big wins for Figgy. Rob Font and now Cody Garbrandt, a former champion, probably 1 win away from entering the title picture at 135 pounds. All these matchups are fresh for Deivson because he's a new addition to the weight class. I mean, any of them. Give me Song Yadong. Give me Henry Cejudo. Give me Marlon Vera. Give me Peter Yan. Give me Corey Sandhagen. Any single one of them is not only a fantastic fight, I think it should be a main event level fight, and it has huge implications for the bantamweight title picture. So that's it for UFC 300, the biggest card of all time, and my goodness, does it feel like it. I ain't got a voice to hardly talk anymore, but I hope you guys enjoyed my recaps and my breakdowns even coming in. It's been a big last month and a half, 2 months for the channel here on YouTube, and I'm so greatly appreciative of that. So if you enjoy the content you see here, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. Every single week, I'm going through the biggest fights, biggest news, biggest fight announcements, everything in between. You can also join the community on social media at the BAJ MMA and follow along on your favorite podcasting platform where episodes are uploaded every Friday and Monday. Have a great week, and I will catch you in the next video.